Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where we read stories about entitlement that will infuriate you. If you're new to my channel, please feel free to subscribe as I upload daily content and we would love to see you in our community. Without any further ado, let's dive right in. And the first one is titled, "You cannot drive if you are disabled." So to start, where I live you need a parking permit to park on my street. Usually I will drive around and park further away and walk, but because of the pandemic and the fact that I am working on the front line, I am a care assistant who mostly is not working with the problem, but I am exposed to it when I go into the hospital, etc. I decided to order a permit, only £2.50 for the month, and park closer. Due to the whole pandemic thing, there was a shortage, so one day after work and popping to the supermarket to get some food, I drive around my street 3 times and could not find a single non-permit space, so I eventually thought, never mind, I will park in a place that needs a permit, and if I get a ticket, I will appeal it. That is when Mr. Entitled Older Man, EM, popped his head out. Now, I was already on the brink of tears, to be honest. My friend had died from the virus, I am working in a different country, while my family members are sick with symptoms, it is not a good time. He asked me if I was parking there, I said yes, then he asked me to move back slightly so his wife could park when she gets back from shopping. I agree and get back in my car. Should be the end, right? Nope. EM, "You don't have a parking permit." Me, "I have ordered one, not here yet." EM, "You need a permit." Me, "I do live here." EM, "You still need a permit." Me, "Okay." At this point I had given up. I was tired, working long hours, but he carries on. He says I'm selfish for parking there. Then I start fully crying, he goes back inside, I am not really in the mood for it, knock on his door, tell him I'm not moving my car because I am upset. He offers to move my car for me, as of social distancing is not a thing, I say no, he can wait. I then tell him he was rude and I did not appreciate being called selfish for my parking. He told me 3 times that I was selfish and I was a drama queen. I told him it was an accident and that I have dyspraxia, making it hard to judge spaces. His response? "Well, should you be driving then?" Yes, I have passed my test and applied for my permit, so I pay for my permit. Me, okay, as if he thinks I haven't and it's not £2 a month. In this conversation, he told me 3 times I should not be driving because of my disability. He also threatened to report me if I did not drive around again and find a new space. I told him I worked on the front line of the pandemic and needed to drive and needed to park close to my house to minimize the exposure to outside. "Just move your car and everyone's happy." I'm annoyed to say I moved my car, someone else who heard the whole thing gave me their space. I wish I had left my car there, to be honest, because when I got home I posted about the situation in a Facebook page and my local councillor messaged me to say I could park wherever I needed and not to worry about any fines. And also took my neighbor's details and asked me to let them know if I have any other problems. I left a note on my car explaining I was a frontline worker and that our local councillor gave me permission to park there. I also included some of the things he had called me just to make sure he felt extra embarrassed. This is not really the climate to be insulting essential workers. He just looks sheepish whenever he sees me now. Guys, one thing I have learned is that entitled people don't really care what time it is, even if there is an international pandemic. If they feel that they are not treated fairly, then they don't give a crap if you are an essential worker or not. By the way guys, I'm curious, are any of my viewers essential workers in this pandemic? Or do you have any friends that are essential workers? Let us know in the comments, I'm curious how they are doing right now. And the next one is titled, "Entitled Old Man Tries to Force Me, a Disabled Girl, to Give Up My Seat in a Communal Area." A few years ago, I was between 18 and 15 at the time, female, went on holiday with my mom, dad, brother, aunt and uncle and their friends, a couple. My aunt and uncle live far away from us, so the holiday was specially planned to spend time with them and to show their friends the brilliant parts of our country. One evening, the family decided we would walk down to this fabulous deck with a lovely view of nature and the sunset for some evening drinks. This deck also served as the waiting area for the reception of the hotel we were staying in, and as a result had about 5 areas of seating with enough space for about 6 people at each. My brother and I decided we would walk down a little before while the adults got ready. When we got there, we picked a spot with a good view, put our stuff down and ordered some cool drinks. 10 minutes later, my uncle arrives with his wife and her friend, who immediately go to check out the curio shop. He sits down and orders a beer, but he then gets up to look for his wife and her friend to ask what they would like to drink. Shortly after this, a tour guide arrived with at least 20 couples on his tour. They are obviously then all waiting to be booked in. It is worth noting that his guests were all elderly, but that they were in no way unable to stand for long periods of time. With my brother and I and the people who were previously in the reception area, there were not enough seats for them all. Now, I have a very visible physical disability that renders me unable to walk without a walking frame. If I even attempt to stand without it, I will fall on my face. The tour guide walks over to me and my brother and says, while leaning on my walker,
"Excuse me, but you two need to move now. My guests need to sit down here."
My brother and I were a bit taken aback, and we did not really think it was fair, considering that it's not only the reception, but also a place for social gathering, and that seats work on a first come first served basis. However, because our parents always taught us to give up our seats to the elderly, I slowly start getting up. At this point my uncle returns and says,
"Excuse me, but what are you doing? We were here first."
The guy replies with,
"You need to respect your elders. My guests need those seats."
They, referring to us,
"Can move. This is my business."
My uncle calmly comes back with,
"Sorry, but I don't know if you have realized that she's disabled and cannot stand for long periods of time. Who are you to tell her to move? We won't be moving."
The guy calls my uncle an a-hole and tells him to show some respect, but he goes away huffing. Not even 10 seconds later, people in his tour come up to my uncle and say, "Well done for standing your ground. We are so sorry for his behavior. It's embarrassing." The guy comes back later to try to give my uncle an inadequate apology, which my uncle accepts, but says to him, "Considering that your guests told me themselves that your behavior is embarrassing, I think you need to rethink your business skills." He walked away red and avoided us the whole evening. We had a lovely dinner. And guys, let me know in the comments, when was the first time in your life that you were offered seats, for example in a public transport like a bus, by some kid or something? Let us know in the comments, and by the way, if you enjoy my content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much in advance. And now let's continue with the story. And the next one was posted on r/ripe stories, our own subreddit, by the lovely Mama-san, and is titled "Not Quite an HOA." Years ago, before this diva's kids went to high school, we rednecks of the deep south moved to just outside a large northern city. Though my sweetheart was a stickler for rules, he did not like people telling him what to do with his home. He had researched many places to live, and to my surprise, he got us a home in a trailer park. Now, this was a very nice place, however, the company managing this had rules. One big rule was no dumping out ice chests where it could drain onto the street. Come February, it was crawfish season. With snow on the ground and slush and ice on the roads, we got the bright idea to FedEx ourselves 90 pounds of live crawfish. We rented a canopy, tables and chairs for our crawfish boil. Imagine a pack of strange people getting up at dawn on a frozen February morning to start prepping crawfish. We dumped the crawfish in 2 very large ice chests and then filled with water from the garden hose. Crawfish are also called mudbugs due to living in the mud of swamps. Before you can even think of cooking them, you have to purge the mud from their little bodies. This takes multiple soaking in salted water to get all the mud out. Rednecks do this by using ice chests because they have built-in drain holes. We filled and drained each ice chest at least 4 times onto our driveway. During this, the trailer park trucks passed our place twice. Every time we raised our heads, we noticed twitching curtains in the windows of all the other trailers. Finally, the crawfish was clean of mud, so we could cook them. Now, the Cajun seasoning is very strong and orange in color. The fumes from the boiling pot would open your sinuses at 10 paces. After boiling, we pulled them out and dumped them on the newspaper covered tables, in classic redneck style. We dumped the orange boil water out on the end of our driveway. The ice and slush was orange and smelled of spice for weeks. Somehow we never got in trouble for this. When we finally left there to go back south, one of the neighbors told us we never got reported because we were the entertainment of the neighborhood. Some even had bets on what we would do next. It's good to be the diva. And guys, you know what I enjoy about Mama-san's stories the most? She does not take herself too serious and she's able to laugh about herself as well. In my opinion, that's something that most people nowadays at least definitely cannot do anymore, and I very highly appreciate that. Then again guys, not gonna lie, I would love to try those crawfish. Did any of you ever eat them? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, Entitled Mom Does Not Want Disabled Child at Elementary School. Now first I would like to say that I am typing on my phone and that English is not my native language. This story is not about me, but about my little sister that has a transplanted kidney, necrotic bones and muscular disabilities and is therefore in need of constant medical surveillance and a wheelchair. She's now in 2nd grade and has a nurse that accompanies her to school to check blood pressure, give her meds and assist with everything she cannot do herself. Now, as we all know, people get sick and so does her nurse, and for the last 1.5 years that was no problem, because if the nurse was sick, my mother or I would accompany her. That was until January, when the mother of a classmate complained about that to the principal, so now we can only accompany her on 5 days a month, but because the nurse is sick for a long time right now and it is basically impossible to find nurses where I live, that means my sister is now excluded from school. And while we cannot know for sure, we are certain that this complaint was primarily motivated by envy, because this mother is the kind of mother that wants total control over her child all the time, and she was envious because she could not be at school. I don't know if this is the right subreddit for this story, but if it is, I hope you enjoyed it. By the way guys, I forgot to say, if you want, feel free to post some star emojis in the comments if you would like to support me. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, But Disabled People Cannot Use Power Tools. I am a 29-year-old disabled female, incomplete quadriplegic with full use of one hand and arm and 70% use of my right hand and arm, and I am in a wheelchair. I am not a stereotypical female. I wear bright girly colors, I paint, draw, but more important to this story, I know my way around a hardware store, my father was a builder and mom is artistic, so my interests are a bit of both, and I know how to use power tools. This happened late last year before the virus. I was bored one weekend, so I decided to go to my local hardware store to pick up a few things to make a bookshelf. I own a multi-tool, a power tool that has attachments like a woodcutter and sander, but I wanted to get a few extra products for my multi-tool and I was contemplating buying an orbital sander. That is when Karen showed up. At first she was not acting like a Karen, but her attitude changed quickly. Karen:
Excuse me young lady, can I help you find something?
Me: No thanks, I know what I'm looking for.
Karen: But these are power tools, they are a bit too dangerous for you. Can I help you find the craft section?
I've already been there, pointing to the paints and glue on my lap. I need some tools and an orbital sander.
Karen: But those are dangerous, you should not play with things like that.
Me: Thanks for your concern, but I know how to use power tools. I've done it heaps of times before. Karen:
Okay, fine.
And she stomps away. I go back to picking out the tools I need and am about to pick up the orbital sander when Karen returns with the manager. Manager: Hi OP. She knows me because I shop there often. This lady said you're handling dangerous equipment. Me: No, I'm making a bookshelf. I just needed to pick up some things for my multi-tool and a sander. Manager: No worries, have a good day. And she goes to walk away. Karen:
No, wait, you cannot let her buy that. She's disabled and cannot use things like that. She should not even be in here. I want to speak to your manager.
Manager: Ma'am, I am the manager. She can buy whatever she likes. She's an adult. I smiled at Karen and proceeded to pick up the sander. Karen just glared at me and stomped off, muttering something insulting about disabled people. The lesson here is, don't assume a disabled person can't do something. If you've got the passion and determination, you can do anything you put your mind to. The bookshelf turned out great. It's a tree bookshelf and now holds many of my books. It has not fallen apart, so I can safely say that I know what I'm doing. And guys, I can safely say when it comes to things like that, I have 2 left hands, so I would definitely not be able to create that bookshelf. And the next one was also posted on r/ripe stories by user Nikita Akashia and is titled, "My dad's girlfriend tries to get rid of me and my sister and thinks she's entitled to all of his time. Is currently trying to get rid of my sister during quarantine and wants my dad to kick her out for no reason." Hello Ripe and my fellow Ripe stars, how are all of you doing? I'm doing well, by the way, how about you? I'm quarantined with the freaks inside our house in the mountains, but I am managing. And I finally started school. It's a bit stressful at the moment, but I will manage. I'm looking forward to being able to move out in the future and being with my sister again. Anyway, on to the story. So my dad was actually with this woman before he met my mother and became a father. But he broke up with her, married my mother, got cheated on by her, and finally got custody of me and my sister. Ever since my sister and I moved back home, this woman has been constantly nagging on dad's parenting. That woman,
"You're too lenient, you need to be stricter, send them back to their mother."
This woman was basically trying to make our dad get rid of us and send us back to our abuser. How can a human be so insensitive? I still don't like this woman at all. According to my dad, she was brought up in a very strict manner and her father was a butthole. But since she is way older than me, she cannot compare parenting then to now. Her worldview is antiquated and stupid. Currently, she's being extremely salty about our dad not kicking out my sister while she is in university. In her antiquated mind, my sister needs to leave so she can have my dad for herself. She also doesn't like it when dad is using his free time to pick me up from the village to take me home for an important appointment in my home city. She gets incredibly salty whenever our father is spending time with us instead of her. My dad is also behaving not really okay during the quarantine because she always complains she wants to see him. No one is supposed to be outside too much, you dumb cow. My father still likes her despite this behavior, although he does get angry when she tells him to be an ass and abandon his kids. Even though they were planning to move in together before our father got custody, that is still no reason to treat your partner's children like they are just in the way. How can I make my father see that this is not okay? Thanks for reading so far if you did, and I hope you have a great day. And guys, I'm curious, what would you suggest Nikita to do? Can Nikita do anything? I'm not sure actually, because in the end it just comes down to the father and the relationship he has with this woman. In my opinion, your children should always come first and are more important than some kind of relationship. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripe stories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow.